Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Megan. Thanks so much for watching. And today I'm going to go through with you guys my breastfeeding journey. Before I get into everything, make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss any updates, and also go follow me over on my Instagram. So the first week of August is World Breastfeeding Month, and the whole month of August is National Breastfeeding Month, at least in the United States. So I just wanted to talk about how my breastfeeding journey has gone, and let me tell you, it has not been a smooth ride. So the hospital I delivered at luckily was very breastfeeding friendly, and they did not push pacifiers or bottles or formula. In the hospital, however, Celie initially latched okay, but then it just kind of got worse. She did have a tongue tie that they noticed in the hospital, but the pediatrician there was like, I don't know if it's anything that we need to do something about. It looks like she still has good motion, and also we were dealing with me having inverted nipples at the time. So kind of both of our anatomies like just weren't matching up. So what we ended up doing was trying a nipple shield in the hospital, and luckily with that, Celie was able to latch on pretty well. So once we got discharged, everything was going great with weight gain and that kind of thing. But my pediatrician at first also was like, I'm not sure that the tongue tie is anything we need to worry about right now, but I do think that you could be done with the nipple shield if you want to be. So that was our goal, was to try to get off the nipple shield. At our 2-week appointment, we did decide to have her tongue tie clipped. I say clipped because literally my pediatrician did it in office with the scissors at 2 weeks old, and at a month old, we were actually able to get rid of the nipple shield. However, my supply in the very beginning was like off the chain. My milk came in at like day 3, like before we even like got discharged from the hospital. The wind blew and I would be leaking everywhere. My supply was insane in the very beginning. So that is really how Celie was getting all of her nutrients and milk, was because my supply was just like out of control. So what ended up happening is that around, I think 9 weeks or something like that, my supply down regulated because Celie wasn't really transferring milk very well. And at that point, or around that time, the milk supply naturally kind of evens out a little bit. It's not so out of control. So she started transferring less and less milk. And by 9 or 10 weeks, I think it was like right around 10 weeks, we noticed that like she wasn't having as many wet diapers. And she was extra fussy. So we ended up taking her back to the pediatrician, and she had lost weight. We were thinking that it might have been thrush. We were like really just like racking our brains as to like what could be going on. And then on top of that, at 10 weeks postpartum, Shark Week showed up for me and my supply tanked. I also was seemingly getting mastitis at that time. So, you know, just another thing to add to the list at that 10-week mark. It was a crazy time, and I was about to go back to work in a couple of weeks. It was stressful to say the least. So anyways, once we figured out that, okay, the mastitis is gone, Shark Week is gone, we're still not transferring milk. I was able to pump enough and bottle feed her to where she would gain weight. But once we got the go ahead to have her latch back on, she still just like would not latch for any reason. She was mad. It was just not good. And I had been pace feeding with the bottle, so I knew it wasn't because she just like was mad that she wasn't getting enough flow or whatever. So I did a ton of research, and I noticed that her tongue looked like it still was attached further back. So you can have an anterior tie and a posterior tie. The posterior tie can be harder to see. So what happened is the initial time that Celie got her tongue tie clipped, the doctor didn't go far enough back. So we actually at 11 weeks old had her tongue tie clipped again. And further back this time, there is a doctor, I'm not sure of his name, but he's big into tongue ties, and that's just kind of his area of specialty. And I noticed on his website that really, like, regardless of how it's clipped, there needs to be like a diamond shape underneath the tongue, and that's how you know that it has been fully released. So I know for sure we didn't have that the first time, but the second time around we did get that diamond cut out, and so we were pretty confident that that was going to fix everything. So immediately after that appointment, I went home and I was able to get her to latch for like just a second, and then she started screaming and crying again. And so obviously I started screaming and crying. Well, not screaming, but definitely crying, because I just wanted her to be able to nurse. And at that point I was like, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to nurse again. We might be stuck exclusively pumping, which just was not what I wanted to do. So after lots of work on getting her to latch, and we actually ended up taking her to my work and having her oral motor skills looked at by one of the speech feeding therapists. And so really, just because it had been 11 weeks of her not latching correctly, not being able to fully use her tongue, and not being able to strengthen the muscles that she needed to strengthen, we just needed to work on it some more. So after that, we were able to get her to latch again, and pretty much by the time that I went back to work a few weeks later, she was nursing beautifully. So that is kind of the struggle of our breastfeeding journey, like the hardest part of it. I will say pumping at work, and then just the stress of being back at work, gradually my pump output just declined. And around 9 months we did have to use donor milk. 10 months we switched to formula because we also had some allergies that we were dealing with and couldn't get donor milk. So we had some struggles there too. And honestly, once we made it to that year mark where we were pretty much nursing if I was with her, and then it was kind of a toss-up, it would either be breast milk or formula when we were away. I was super happy to reach that point. And now that we're over a year, I mean, we are still nursing usually like 4 to 5 times, sometimes 6 times if I'm with her all day. If not, she usually nurses about 3 times. It just kind of depends. So that is kind of the struggle of our breastfeeding journey. I know it's different for every single person. I can fully understand how a lot of people just give up on it, and you know, it's too stressful and it's not good for their mental health. And you know, baby needs a healthy mom, both mentally and physically, to be able to take care of them. So I totally get why people give up, and I definitely cried more than once. So I want to talk a little bit about what I feel like made us successful in reaching our goals. And obviously I wanted to completely exclusively breastfeed her for the first year, so I didn't quite meet that goal, but I know it's nothing that I could really change, because what I feel like happened is she got super efficient at nursing, and the pump just like doesn't do it for my body anymore. So one of the things that I think really helped us succeed in breastfeeding is that the pediatrician that I chose was also an IBCLC, which is an internationally board certified lactation consultant. And so even the whole practice that I went to is very breastfeeding friendly. Never once did they push formula on me. And so I feel like that is one of the big things that really helped us out, because at her appointments where we were having trouble latching and having trouble feeding, the pediatrician was able to just help me troubleshoot and figure out what exactly was going on, because she was also a lactation consultant. So one of the other things that I really feel like helped me out is my support system. My husband never once, said anything bad about me nursing, which I hear a lot in some of my baby groups on Facebook, that, the husband is like not super supportive, or like a mother-in-law or the mom or grandma would be, is not supportive, and they throw out a bunch of negativity and, say things like, well, the baby needs formula, like you're not feeding him enough, and blah, 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 just all of those like common things that you hear. And I think my husband realized that there was nothing that he could say to me that was going to change my mind about nursing or breastfeeding, like at least, doing pumped milk. I also had a really strong support system at work, and I think it's probably because I work in the pediatric healthcare field. But I had a lot of coworkers that had, worked and pumped and kept breastfeeding their own kids. So I just had a ton of support all the way around that I'm super thankful for. The other thing that I feel like really helped me was educating myself before all of it. So during pregnancy, before pregnancy, I was learning all the things I could about breastfeeding to try to help myself as much as I could so that we could be successful. And I didn't allow outside things to hinder that. For example, our daycare said I wasn't feeding her enough, and basically like if we didn't bring more milk, I couldn't go back. So we got kicked out of daycare at like, I don't know, we were there for maybe 6 weeks or something. But I knew that what they were trying to do was going to hinder my goals and what I feel like was best for Sealy. So we, had to be done with that daycare. One of the things that I really think helped keep us nursing while I went back to work is pace feeding. That is like the number one thing I would recommend to all moms that want to go back to work and continue nursing, as well as, like a combo feed, because obviously if you're not with them, they can't nurse. So they'll have to have a bottle. But pace feeding is so, so, so important. I could probably make a whole video about that. But I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.